The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. Welcome in. It's time. It's time for my favorite hour of the week. It is the Bite Me podcast. We got the fellas here. Well, we have two of the fellas here, and the other camera is on. Just not exactly sure where Caleb is, but
lights are on. Nobody's home.
That's exactly what it is. The lights are literally on. The microphone is literally on, and nobody's home. But if you're watching us live here on the YouTube stream, you see an empty room in one of the boxes. Captain Dean Thomas is here. Captain Scott Null is here. I am here. I'm John Lopez, and Captain Caleb is whereabouts unknown right now. If you're like I said, if you're watching us on the live YouTube stream, you see it, and you can guess as to where and what Caleb is doing. But if you're not on the live stream, no problem at all, man. We have the vast majority of our listeners download the podcast wherever you get your podcast and listen to it as I post it about 6 p.m. But I'm usually a little tardy on that, 6:15 or so, just being completely honest here. I got to do a bunch of stuff. But anyway, here we are with the Bite Me podcast. And I will say it's my favorite hour of the week. How about a little temperature check here? Not literally, although it is warming up. Before we get into some of the topics, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast and join the Bite Me group page on Facebook. We have a couple of updates on the feeding frenzy, but I do want to remind people we still got a little over 3 months before it hits. We just are, you know me, I like to be prepared for everything. So we're getting everything in line. I have a couple of little updates today, a couple of posts next week that are going to be pretty significant and updates as well. But I'm going to start with Scott on just a temperature check of what's going on out there because we came in and Scott was like looking at his phone and windy. I thought we were past this, especially with these temperatures getting a little higher, but apparently not. What's happening right now, Scott?
Dude, I had to save Joe's ass a while ago because the truck door was getting blown closed on her and she was trying to stick her head in the floorboard.
It's blowing.
When the wind slams the door on an F-350, it's ripping. It was blowing.
It was blowing.
Yeah, it's showing 23 gusting to 31 right now here.
Yeah,
that's fun. After yesterday was 0. It was so nice yesterday.
Did you get out yesterday?
No, I had a bunch of stuff going on. I thought, all right, it's going on, and maybe tomorrow I can slip out there and I had some appointments I had to take care of. I thought, all right, I'm gonna slip out there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday was a better day for a brush fire than today.
Yeah, it was.
This is true.
Between appointments, I got to play fireman. So.
Oh, that's right.
That was fun.
You came across. Was that just by accident, or you saw the smoke, or what?
I mean, you've been out here. It's all, it's all wilderness. And, we got some neighbors, there's like 5 or 6 neighbors out here and we all keep an eye on each other. And I looked over and one of my buddies, Noe, he's a DPS officer, him and his wife, both DPS officers. And right behind their house, it looked like, Armageddon was going off. So I ran over there and checked on it and realized that it was pretty damn big fire going and it was heading towards their property. And so I ran back and got the tractor, and fire department was just getting there when I got back, and they couldn't access into there because it's so thick and overgrown. So I just went 4-wheel drive on the tractor with the mower and mowed them a pathway in. And then I just started mowing around the front end of the fire and, knocking down brush so it wouldn't keep going.
Yeah.
And they were giving me thumbs up. So I guess I was doing all right.
Look at you. You're still a hero. You're still a hero.
I can tell you, it was hot. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And Caleb has joined us. And Caleb, I do want to remind you, we are live now. We are recording. So we saw the blank room, and I didn't know if you had something pull you away or what, or just what it might have been. But yeah, we're going. We're blowing and going. Favorite hour of the week.
Yeah, Steve was outside attempting to Diddy the Amazon driver.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good reason to leave. That's the one that's his favorite that he always barks at.
Yeah, but he's taken him to the ground once.
Steve takes him to the ground.
Steve took him to the ground.
Little 5-pound Steve or whatever the hell he is.
Mm-hmm.
Taking
I mean,
him
that
out.
dog in the house is the littlest one.
Always.
Yep.
So I'm doing a little temperature check here on you guys because we did have a really good window yesterday. Before we get to Dean, anything happening? Did you get out? What's going on with fishing right now?
Man, I have guided every fishable day this month. So yeah, yesterday was great.
So you've been out once.
I've been out once. I've been out once. It was good though. It was good.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable. It made me realize that I'm legitimately pissed off that the weather keeps doing this to us.
Yeah, it was kind of a tease.
Yep. No, it was. And you know, my customer was, and rightfully so, a little bit apprehensive last week, and I said let's fish on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But I would imagine that he is happy he went out yesterday because we had a good time.
Based on the pictures. Dean, what's been going on? And I want to get start the next topic, the first topic with you as well. But I know you've been out.
Yeah. It's been a variety of weather. I mean, it's been a little bit of everything. It's blown in every direction, a lot of west wind, which kind of was not my favorite. But I mean, it's been some good days. We had some crazy days where we couldn't do no wrong and with the worst conditions. And then we had the best conditions that were tough bite. So, and now we're coming up on the heat wave, kind of like welcome to summer now. I mean, it's been interesting. I'm ready to get to a consistent pattern of at least where we know what the wind's gonna, or I mean, you know what it's gonna do, but at least it would just
we all know what it's doing.
I mean, we just blow in one direction for a couple of days. But I think that's coming. I think it's time. It's fun. We're finally past a lot of the variety.
Going to be 100 degrees down south today and tomorrow also. So I don't know how that's going to affect.
Man, we got 103s and 105s. And
awesome.
Well, here on the coast, I mean, we're looking at 97s and 98s, but like Alice and Alfarius and Hebronville in there has 103s and 105s this week.
Jeez.
That's what I was telling somebody the other day that I remember in May, this is when I moved up here, leaving here, and it was like 83 degrees. And I drove to my dad's place down in George West, and it was 103 on the same. Yeah, it's different down there.
It's coming. I did say that I'm gonna have a couple of and just another reminder, you know, the feeding frenzy September 20th. So we have plenty of time, but we like to stay prepared. A couple of little announcements here before next week's going to be big. Actually, more than a couple, because I want to mention something else as well. But first of all, thank you to Carrie, Dean's better half. If you are interested in already booking your appointment, your hotel for the September 20th feeding frenzy, we have a block of rooms. That's something we haven't had in the last couple of years. And I can tell you the regular rate on these rooms is, I believe, $169 a night. We got them for $99 a night. So go to Carrie's page. I'm going to post it on the Bite Me group page. And it's for the 19th to the 22nd. Excuse me, the 18th to the 20th. So it's $99 as opposed to $169. Ask for the Bite Me feeding frenzy or the feeding frenzy rate. So that's good news right there. Another little announcement here, and we'll get to some others in the coming weeks. People have asked about the links for RSVPing, because we're going to pay for the first 200 people who RSVP in the first, and we're going to sell the raffle tickets online in the entire lead up to the feeding frenzy. Look for that next week, probably next Tuesday or Wednesday after the podcast. So for anybody asking about that, look for that. And then big thing next Tuesday, right here live on the podcast here, we will indeed have Ryan Towns from whereabouts unknown along the Texas coast, releasing at least one tagged redfish right here. We're going to do it at 3:30 p.m. I'll post it on YouTube as well, so you can get out your investigative skills and see if you can figure out where exactly that redfish has been released. And they've said it from the very start. If they figure it out, just tell us that you figured it out. All good. So that's going to be live right here this time a week from today. And Caleb, you look like you're just about to get your detective hat on as well.
Yep.
Hey, and then one more thing before we about
Ooh.
the 105 in Catula. That's get your tan lines. It's tan line season. About the lodging at the Candlewood.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention that. Candlewood Suites.
Well, the thing, and so when it comes to booking the discounted rate for the lodging, you have to specifically click the link that we're going to link up. And those days that are discounted, you have to book them separately or individually. If you're going to book days before or after the frenzy, if you're going to come in early or if you're going to stay later, they have to book separately.
Yeah.
Before and after days aren't discounted. The days that have the link is the specific link to the discount, and I was informed to give specific instructions on that.
Yeah.
So you can't, book a week and get the discount in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of you have to go to that, book the frenzy days, and then before and after is separate.
Yeah, and we'll get that link. I'll text, or maybe you can let her know, Dean, since she's right there, I'm guessing, to send me the link, and I'll put it on the group page today. Caleb, you got an interesting finger sticking up as you're rubbing your mouth.
Who's he?
What's going on?
Who's he indicating?
I mean, I was deep in thought that I find it, as Dean would say, interesting that the detailed instructions were handed off to him to pass on, so that nobody gets confused.
Oh yeah. Hate to see anybody get confused about things. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see if we can figure out where that redfish is released. That's going to be live right here next week at this time. Okay, so let's get into some topics. Now, this one is an interesting one to me because it has to do with something that we're going to hopefully see a lot more of in the coming days and weeks. Dean, I'm going to start with you because you saw it yesterday, tailing redfish. And a lot of people get, that sort of buck fever, if you will, to mix metaphors when they see tailing redfish. How to approach it, and everybody weigh in on this. Just raise your hand or hop in because I know we all have thoughts on this, but you guys just jump on in. How to approach it, and more specifically, how not to approach tailing redfish and what you can expect. Go ahead, Caleb, real quick.
Before Dean answers this, I just want to let Austin and Jim know I did not make this topic. And we're not going to talk about what they do when they see tailing redfish.
It was my topic. It was all me. It has nothing to do with anything.
And the rundown was sent out yesterday morning. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, wow. There's a story there. That's for dang sure. But no, I saw your video, Dean, and I'm like, okay, that right there, more and more people, hopefully, like I said, are going to see. But there's some do's and don'ts, man.
Well, no one else has seen that video. kind of kept that one to ourselves.
Jay Schultz and John Parkoff might know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But see, that's why it's good to talk about. We need to help our listeners.
Well, apparently the whole world knows about it now.
I just said it was a video. I didn't say anything else.
Yeah. This is organic.
Yes, completely random.
I mean, we won't say that video was created yesterday.
Now we have.
No, man. Tailing reds. I mean, it's a subject all of its own. It's kind of the holy grail of what we look for when you see them. It's like a little spectacle of nature when you get those tails poking up, gleaming in the sun. It's one of the most beautiful things you ever wanted to see. And not the easiest thing to accomplish on catching one out of a school. It's there's a lot of challenges that come with that. And then it has to do with the conditions. So the conditions that we had were absolute zero wind, ultra clear water, beautiful school of reds, moving super slow. So they're like, so if you got 30 or 40 fish in a school, that's like 60 or 80 eyes looking in different directions. It's hard to know which one's going to spook, if they're going to give it away, if they're so preoccupied with what they're doing that you can get away with a lot of mistakes. If it's windy, you're a little more easier to sneak up on them. They're not going to see a lure flying through the air. They're not going to be as spooky about shadows. Then it requires, even though you have a giant school of fish like that are feeding, it still requires a perfect cast. You cannot throw into them. You can't just flop something in the middle of them. You can't throw past them and swim a lure into them. Some days, yes. I'm not saying any of this is etched in stone. The best way to approach that, though, and as we're creeping up on these fish, my advice to the folks that are with me is to throw short. You can throw short 10 times. And, that's what else I said. I said, they're going to keep doing that until we mess it up, until we do something wrong. Those fish are going to stay there. So if you throw short, if you throw to the edge of the school and you get a fish's attention and then you start pulling it away from the school, somebody's going to chase it. And more likely that one's going to get eaten. But throwing in there, over them, across them is it requires a precise cast, and that's when casting skills come into play. Most days we're drifting the flats and it's just random. It's just let it fly. Distance, direction doesn't matter, precise doesn't matter. But when you have a tailing fish and then you look at the tails and you see which direction their heads are facing, you try to figure out the direction they're going. The reason throwing past them and bringing it into the school doesn't always work is nothing swims into a school of redfish to commit suicide. It's not what they expect to see. They don't expect to see a mullet coming swimming right into the middle of them. Or if you hit the tail or if you go across the back, that's also very unnatural. So if you throw short, get their attention, and then it looks like it is fleeing away from the school, and then something comes after it, then they have a natural look of what to expect.
A tailing redfish is going to be the hardest fish to catch or the easiest fish to catch, and there's very little in between. We could evolve the entire topic into Frank was over there in the comments talking about how not spooky the fish are in Louisiana. Yesterday you couldn't make a single mistake and catch that fish, and the guys that were with me, they're like, man, I know I was frustrating them, and frankly I get a little bit of pleasure out of it just to watch them twitch. But they'd be like, hey, there's a tailing red right over there, and I've got the biggest wad of my wife's candle wax on my shirt.
Hey, that's your personal life, buddy.
I've been trying to no, this ain't the fun stuff. Miss my nipple.
That's between you and your wife.
It smells like lavender.
Yeah, like I
Anyway, but the tailing reds are either completely couldn't care less if you're there, or they can be super spooky. And yesterday, I know I was frustrating them because they'd see them, and I bet I'd take 10 or 12 minutes to get to them, because I'd go, either way upwind of them. I would go get I was making sure my shadows were right. I was making sure my noises were right, all that kind of stuff. There's a big equation into approaching those suckers a lot of the time, particularly out of the boat. Like yesterday was 7-8 mile an hour wind, so there was some chop to deal with, there was noise to deal with. They were tailing at like 8 a.m., so there were long shadows to deal with. There's a million and one things that you can do to blow up that school of tailing reds. As far as casting at them, my general move is I like to throw maybe 10 feet in front of them and get on their collision course and let the lure just sit there. And once they get up to it, then like Dean said, I'll scurry it away from them, and they'll come out and grab it. We were on Taylor and Reds this fall that were Mike had fished them the day before, and so they were dang near impossible to catch. So I got a K Wiggler shrimp tail. I bit it in half, made it about 2 inches long, and I would throw it well ahead of them. And then right before we get there, I just and jump it away. Yesterday, I was on my guys pretty bad about, just a slow, steady retrieve. Don't be hopping it and jerking it and slinging it around everywhere.
Yeah.
Like Dean said, that's just a little fish just scooting off from them. It's nothing. It's nothing jarring. It's nothing that blows them up, because I think we only blew up 1 or 2 schools yesterday. But I mean, the slightest mistake in approaching them or casting to them or anything like that. And Poland Skiff Scott over there can probably elaborate pretty deep on how you approach them. But there were many schools we saw yesterday. We saw them 10 minutes before we ever got to them, and it was all about the approach and being quiet and keeping the shadows off of them and not having to chase them and not having to change the trolling motor direction, the trolling motor speed. It was all a big, long planned thing for every group of fish we saw.
Scott, they threw a lot. Dean and Caleb both threw a lot out there that you can sink your teeth into. So proceed.
That's why I don't like trolling motors when I'm doing tailing fish. Yeah, that's the whole reason for Poland Skiff, and it makes things laugh a lot easier. You can generally be pretty quiet about it unless somebody steps off of the front of the boat and steps down into the bottom to change rods or do something.
That was oddly specific.
Something silly that happens on a regular basis. I mean, that was not a specific incident. That's a pretty regular thing. Or the guy who's not his turn up on the bow when we're fly fishing decides that's the moment, we're pulling all the way across there. That's when I need to get a drink out of the cooler and dig around in the ice. That's perfect.
Or getting excited and just chunking at them whenever it's way too soon.
And that's the other one.
That's the biggest one.
You get that a lot, especially with the conventional guys. Now the fly guys are generally pretty good about it because they kind of know their distance and they know what's in range and out of range. But that's the other thing. I take a lot of fly guys. I'm not 100% fly by any means. People get that wrong idea all the time. I don't fly fish, but I'd like to fish with you sometime. So come on. The conventional guys tend to overestimate how far they can cast accurately, and they will blow schools up a whole lot more than the fly guys. Plus, if you drop a fly in there and you miss it by just a little bit, it's really not a big deal. They don't freak out so bad with a fly. There's a comment in there, they find them lockjawed on small crabs. Those are the perfect days for me with a fly, dropping a fly in on them and making it look like, it looks like those baby crabs. You can imitate it a little bit better. As far as approaching them, I go slow and I try to figure out, like Dean said, which way they're going. Dean and Caleb both, figure out which way that school. Tailing schools are always moving. They're never stationary. It may look like they're stationary, but they're going somewhere. And if you can see the smoke trail, the video that Caleb and I did for Angler U is a perfect example of that. We had smoke trails all over the flat that day. And locate the smoke trail, you can figure out for sure which way they're going. I like to have my guys cast off to the side of them a little bit. Never really try to get them to cast into it or just right in front of it, and definitely don't cast behind it. Casting behind it will screw things up really quick because there's usually some trout following it. I find a lot of little baby trout, those little 12, 13, 14-inch trout. They're real quick to eat, and then they get jumpy.
It's a regular stop for me, and it should be for you too. Anglers Anonymous in Katy. It's a candy store for fishermen that's going to make your head spin and help make you a better fisherman. You got to see the expanded store too, and you got to chat it up with Mike and Chris Butler, all the guys at Anglers Anonymous. They'll answer your questions honestly, and they'll get you what you need. Reels, rods, lures, they have it all, and apparel that's off the charts. And of course, the calling card service. Real repair, they turn it around for you quickly, and you will be happy. That's Anglers Anonymous in Katy or AnglersAnonymousTX.com.
And they will run right into your school of fish and spook every damn one of them. But also with that in mind, be looking behind that school. And if you see one big, long, dark streak behind that school, that's a big old trout. that's
Yeah.
following the school around. I've seen that quite a bit on the flats.
You ain't gonna catch him, but you'll look at him.
I've actually caught them a couple of times like that because they're so keyed up on eating whatever the reds are pushing out of the way that if you can drop something small in front of them and it looks like one of those shrimp jumping out of there, they will jump all over it. One of my biggest trout on a fly was doing just that. But it's all about being quiet, having a plan, figuring out where they're going, and get to where you can cast right up near them, but not into them.
Yeah.
Don't get anxious. Don't just start ramming and cramming trying to make it work. You're gonna blow them up.
Yep.
And so go ahead, Scott.
And one thing too, if you're throwing conventional and you do blow them up, go ahead and cast in there anyway. Because what I have found so many times is that school blows up and it looks like they all left, but there's a whole bunch of them that didn't get the memo and they just squat and they'll sit right down in that mud where everybody blew out. There's a bunch of mud there. And if you'll throw in there 2 or 3 times, quite often you'll pull one out of it. That's kind of money, you know.
Yeah.
If you can cast far enough, look to which direction they blew up and get in front of them and bring it back. And I've salvaged a lot of blown up schools that way.
Yeah, you can usually pick one off that's taken off. The ones that are hauling ass, the first ones to blow out, you ain't catching those.
Yeah.
But there's some others that are with them. It depends on the size of school. You know, we're talking about a 20, 30, 50 fish school. There's always a bunch of dumbasses in there that went, huh? What were we doing? What's going on?
I was eating.
Yeah. I was eating back here in the back of the pack and the front took off. I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
And
I blew up a school and blew up a $400 rod in the same 10 seconds yesterday.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
It's fine though, because it wasn't mine.
That's then no harm, no foul. All right, so Dean, here. Well, we're going to hear it. Here's the thing.
I laughed so hard yesterday.
Not everybody. We hope they do eventually, but not everybody's going to be on a boat with you or with Scott or with Caleb. Where all these things that you guys have just rattled off, you're going to be in their ear. You know, don't do this. You know, don't go right into them. You know, this and that and that. What about our listeners that is there like almost like a baseline list of things you want to always remember when you're facing a school, because they're going to be out on their own boats and they're going to be all of a sudden come across, especially during the weekdays or little slow days or whatever. They're going to say, hey man, there's a group of tailing redfish. They're not going to have you guys sort of walking them through the whole thing. What's like a baseline thing of things for them to remember?
Well, most importantly, remain calm, slow down, kind of enjoy the moment. And that was one thing that I even said yesterday, because I always have my 50-50 doubts on how this is going to go. This is either going to be the most amazing thing we've ever seen, or we're going to be quite frustrated. But I tell people I said, no matter what happens with this is over, I said, that's one of the most beautiful things you're ever going to see out here. Mm-hmm. You know, 15 or 20 tails up in the air, just glistening in the sun. Slow down. One other thing that we didn't mention as I was listening to that, before you get on top of them, before you get ready to make that money cast, make a practice cast, kind of, you know, plan your trajectory, plan your cast. You can do one before you get there, kind of zoning in a little bit. Take your time. And another thing about those schools, another thing that we didn't mention through that, or they're not always the same behavior. Sometimes you'll blow up a school, and if you just wait a minute, sometimes they will go back to tailing. They might go 15 or 20 yards and settle down if they're in that kind of a mood. Sometimes when they blow up, I mean, it looks like torpedoes headed for deep water. And you just see those wakes do not stop moving until they get to the edge, or, you know, they're headed for wherever they came from. They won't stop. Sometimes they will. But I mean, the best way to do it is to go slow, practice, throw a practice cast in the direction you want, get kind of tuned in. And I mean, we've covered, you know, see which direction they're going, because the one thing to remember is you get one shot. You get one legit chance. The rest is kind of creativity after the fact. But make sure that the first one is the best one.
There's a big difference between them all just kicking and shooting forward about 20 yards and settling back down and busting every direction of the compass. And like Dean said, just gone. And a lot of times when I do that, I'll just hang it up right there. When we super blow them up and make a couple casts and can't catch them, and I'll go somewhere a decent ways away and start hunting other schools, and then I'll swing back around and see if that one came back together. But
Does it?
Yeah, sometimes.
And sometimes they'll that big school will break into 3 or 4 pods.
Yeah,
That's what you really want.
Yeah.
And that's what we did whenever all y'all came with me. There was 2 big schools, and then we caught a couple, and then there was 6 kind of big schools, and then 8 mediocre schools until it was just done. And that was what Scott was saying. They were on the seek and destroy mission that day. But Dean's right about the practice cast. I mean, I can hit shots almost without thinking about it. But still, when I get on the boat every morning, I'll pick out a bubble in the water and flip to it, or pick out a little piece of grass and flip to it. And all I'm doing is making sure my reel feels good, getting the feel of everything, making sure that, is it windy? Do I need to put on a heavier jig head? I'm just calibrating all of my muscle memory, and I'll do it 10, 15 times, flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping, and then off we go. Even when me and Robert Jones, some of the tournaments we fish, we have those big schools that you don't have to hit a spot, cast near it, and we'll still make big long casts as soon as we get in the lake just to make sure everything's working.
Yeah.
Because nothing sucks worse than getting up next to a school and your line's dug in, or it is too loose and you blow it up and stuff like that. Is the wind? Yesterday morning we had schools on the north shoreline of the bay with a north wind blowing. So everything needs to be calibrated to cast into the wind. If the last time you fished, you had the wind behind you, it's going to suck whenever you cast into the north wind the first time that morning.
Go ahead, Scott.
Biggest school I had last year, something else to keep in mind, it was gigantic school, bigger as my living room. I mean, just this huge school that I ran up on. And as we're working our way into them, I started noticing satellite schools that were all around the edge. And we ended up catching 9 fish out of that little flat by not targeting the main. It was hard not to go after that huge school. There was a couple thousand redfish in there, but there was schools all around it that were 10, 15, 20 fish. And if you just took your time and saw those, whereas if we'd have rushed up there to go look at that big school and try to get close enough for it, we'd have blown one of those small schools out and likely blown them into the big school, which would have created a stampede.
Yeah.
And eventually we had one of the fish out of one of the side schools that ate and ran back into the middle of the big school and blew everything up. But just don't get so laser focused on that one school that you run over other schools. Because when one school's doing it, there's others around.
When you left the dock that morning, you were looking for something cool. And to me, the longer you watch that school, the more you're enjoying your day. Yeah. I'm usually in no kind of a hurry to get to them. I told my guys yesterday 10 times, I like hunting them more than I like catching them. I like, okay, there they are. There's a back, there's a tail, there's this, there's that. Don't hurt. It's just like, when you fight a fish and he's pulling drag, like, why are you in a hurry to lock it down and jerk him in the boat? You're out here fishing for fun. And it costs you a lot of money for that drag to sing right there. Listen to it. Hang back.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more.
And the more you
love looking for them, and then you finally get, hey, I figured it out.
Well, the more you watch each school, the more you're going to learn about them. When we got into the lake yesterday, I told the dudes, I said, hey, there's something about this lake, but when we see a school, they're going to turn and they're going to come straight towards my trolling motor. Be ready for them. Almost every shot you get, they're going to be heading right at you. You're only going to get about one shot. And that's something I've learned from sitting there and watching them over and over and over and over. And I've learned that I can almost call them to me. I mean, there were several times we just had them floating right beside the boat. And it's something you learn from watching them. And they act different in every state and every lake. And a lower Laguna redfish don't act like a middle coast redfish, and a middle coast redfish don't look like a Louisiana, don't act like a Louisiana coast redfish. And there's a reason that Scott has the understanding that he does about redfish, even though he's completely screwed up barometric pressure. And that's from how many redfish that he's watched over the years and how they behave and what they do and what they respond to, what they don't respond to. It's there's no reason to get in a hurry. That's what you're there for.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When he talked about them coming to you, they will come right at a pollet skiff.
Dude,
Like, those son of a guns, man. I mean, they'll get too close to you where you can't cast. You know, with a fly rod, you need about 30, 40 feet to get a decent cast off. And, they get inside that, it gets really tough. And I swear, man, it's like they're on a seek and destroy mission. Sometimes it's usually on the light wind days, about 5 miles an hour. And what I think it is that little bit of slap on the side of the hull. I guess it sounds like other fish feeding. I don't know, but there is something about it that will, I mean, make an entire school turn and start coming right at the boat.
They'll turn 180 degrees. Then Frank Lee's, he said they don't get many schools of slot reds, and I mean that's what I'm saying. They're not the same. In Louisiana, I see schools in June and July. Matagorda, I never see schools in June and July. It's all about watching them, and they're just so. I hear Sarah McLachlan playing whenever I'm looking at them.
Get all teary and emotional.
Yeah, it's special.
But
this
Dean,
is the guy who hated redfish when I first met him.
Broke my corkies, man.
Yeah, but Dean, Caleb was talking about they all act differently. I know when I was fishing heavy in Matagorda and to a large degree in Sabine, this is a situation where if you see some lyrebirds on the shoreline, they're not lying a lot of times. The lyrebirds will hang around on the shorelines with the tailing redfish, and so there's all kinds of things to consider. What about trying to necessarily to try to find the tailing reds? It's not always dumb luck, right?
Yeah, usually it is.
It is dumb luck.
I mean, we're always looking. You're looking, you're searching, you're out there staring on the horizon, and there's just a little flicker, just something that's a little different than every other mullet that you saw. And some days the tails are poking up at the sky. They're painfully obvious. You can see them from a long way away, or the sun's hitting them just right, and you can see them from a long way away. Sometimes you have a school that's not vigorously feeding, and the tails are just tipping the surface. They're just tipping and tipping, and then so it's just a matter of, I mean, it's not random luck, but there's very subtle signs that give them away some days that you can pick them off from further away. And then other days, that they slapping you in the face. One other thing though, that, and Caleb did kind of mention it a little bit. You can throw a soft plastic. You can throw a very light jig, something that's not going to hit the water with a lot of noise. There are things that you can throw that aren't as spooky to them, and you can get away with a little closer to the school cast than a top water, than a bigger plug. But every one has its own personality. It is one of the, I mean, we go sometimes weeks and we never see tailing reds,
Yeah.
And then the day that you do see them, man, sit back and enjoy it, man. Take a minute, and just kind of take in that moment and watch them. And that's another thing. And if you fish enough, if you fish a lot, you're more likely to stop and observe and not go directly to the cast. The desire to catch it, to seal the deal, is always there. But if you really want to learn how they act on different conditions and situations, let them tail, let them feed, sit back and watch them, man. Pull out your camera, take some pictures, shoot a little video, give them time to do what they're going to do. And because as soon as you throw something in there, it's over. And then good, bad, or otherwise.
Well,
when you're on finding them, something that came to me a little later on after I'd been doing this for a while was finding a good school that's tailing really good, and all of a sudden they're disappearing on you, and you don't know what the hell happened. You know, you just keep looking. There's times when they just move just a little bit, and now they're in deeper water. They're still tailing. They're just in a little bit deeper water, and you can see a flat spot form on top of the water. Almost looks like a slick. You can't see their tails anymore. You just see this, and all it is them creating a commotion from underwater that's flattened out the ripples.
Yeah.
And so you can watch that as well. And if you're in an area that you know that they should be tailing, you're on a good grass flat, you've had tailing fish in there for a couple of days, but the water came up. South wind kicked in, so the water came up 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches. They're still there. They're still tailing. It's just a matter you can't see them. And last year we had a ton of little fish. Like when Caleb was here shooting that video, we had a bunch of 16 to 18-inch long fish. You need some really shallow water. Well, hardheads too, but you need some really shallow water for a 15 to 16, 17-inch fish to show his tail.
Yeah.
And so think about the water depth that you're in as well when you're looking for these tails.
Yeah, that when they got the down in South Texas where I fish a lot, when they've got their nose buried in the mud, they'll stand straight up in the air and their tail isn't even out of the water. Like Dean said, watching them, you'll also learn how redfish react when they bump each other, and that'll start teaching you whether did I spook them or did they just bump each other, and they're gonna figure out everything's okay, and 20 yards this way or that way they're gonna pop back up because they'll bump each other and. But then it settles down real quick, and then a couple minutes later, they're back up and doing their thing, and it's a distinctive difference between blowing up. But it looks the same until you learn the different things. And then another piece of finding tailing fish is it's unless you've got the perfect sun, it's kind of hard to see just the red tail sticking out of the water. I see a silver shine before anything when their tail moves just right and the sun hits it. I'll see silver flickers more often than I'm like, oh, look at that dark tail sticking out. When Scott and I were fishing, it was the right sun, the right angle, everything. It was just a big old maroon tail sticking out. But a lot of times a flash, and then a lot of times you just see some little shrimp popping out of the water, and then you clue in on that, and then you start seeing that tail kind of come up and go back down and come up. But Scott hit a major thing a while ago, and a huge contributor to the success we had yesterday. Yeah, I bet we saw 6 or 8 fish tailing. I bet we saw, 10, 15 times where they blow up and make the little whitewater thing. But more than anything was just a slick spot in the water. And it wasn't a slick from a fish being eaten. It was a slick from a fish rolling. And then that, it just disturbed the direction of the water or whatever. And would just make a slick spot, about, 2 foot in a circle. And then that slick spot would go away just about the time the wind took it back over again. And that's probably 90% of what I was using to locate fish. And then we'd creep up to them real slow, and you'd see a tail or you'd see their body or something like that. But those slick spots, when you see a slick pop up and then disappear in 15, 20 seconds, that was probably a decent sized fish that kicked. And I think the water starts spinning or something, and it just makes it where the waves don't work for a minute. I don't know how it works.
It just disturbs the regular flow somehow.
Yeah, it's a flowiothermic.
Flowiothermogolly. I don't know. Whatever it is.
It's created by poikilotherm.
Polyothermic poikilotherm.
Another thing that when I was listening to Caleb when he was talking about them bumping into each other and spooking the school for just a short term, and so they'll jump a little bit. Bird shadows will do that also. That's another one that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
You're sitting there watching them, and then a bird shadow will pass over, and then the school will jump. But it's not like blowing them up with a lure or such as that. They're not going to completely give it up and head for the drop-offs on that situation. So I mean, there's a lot of things that can make them jump or jumpy, or even a bird shadow like that can kind of break up a school into smaller pods, and that's where you really want to go slow. And
little,
Crack
little
Scott
story,
up.
little story time. When I was guiding Galveston, the North Shoreline had a bunch of grass on it in West Bay, and every spring or late spring, early summer, I would have a bunch of tailing fish. I mean, they would just gang up in there. They were smaller fish, but there was a lot of them, and they'd tail like crazy. It was always a good time. They'd leave the smoke trails. It was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
But there was Bird Island over there that's a sanctuary, and that's where every pelican in Galveston would nest. And every one of those baby pelicans did not understand what the hell a schooling bunch of redfish looked like when they would start flying and start learning how to hunt on their own. And I swear I'd be pulling over to a school and I'd see a squadron of those little the juvenile pelicans that they're kind of gangly looking. They're all loafing along there, and all of a sudden you see them zero in on those tails. It's like, no,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I had those pelicans dive on schooling tails of redfish. I can't tell you how many times, and just bang their heads into the bottom because it was only like 10, 12 inches deep.
It sounds like a toddler. Yeah, that sounds like a toddler.
Oh yeah, they were just like puppies, and they would continue to do it day after day for about a week or two, and then they finally figure it out. But man, that little period in there, it was like a race to try to get to those fish before that was one time you couldn't just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
The pelicans were going to screw it up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you go ahead and get your butt in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just barrel in. Yeah,
schools in Louisiana. I was on tournament day, and it was schools of 8.5, 9 pound fish, just easy. Everybody else shouldn't have even showed up. Like, and there was an alligator that would swim up to the school as a little one. He's probably about 3 foot long. And right before he got to school, I don't know how he did it, but he had come almost to his back leg straight out of the water, and it's like he had look at me and clap and just side flop into him. I don't even think he was trying to eat them. He just screwing with them.
I'll show you, big boy.
And he had those schools so screwed up, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I was like, this is entertaining. But I think he was just playing. I don't know that alligators play, but it seemed
toddlers
that way.
Toddlers do.
Yeah.
Hey, Dean, Scott referenced the casting. You referenced the casting as well. But for our listeners that are out there, they stumble upon or they see a school. You mentioned practicing casts as well. What is realistically what you should consider a good distance to cast? You mentioned where to cast because a lot of people overshoot it. They over I guess they think higher of themselves than they should.
So do you mean the distance an
once
average caster would cast, or a world class contest winner like Caleb would cast?
Well, that's a whole different category. He can cast 65 yards from.
He don't know where it's going.
Man,
but it'll always be to the left.
So, man,
John Parkoff said 100 yards.
How do I?
I can answer that the best. What
Go
I
ahead
do
on. Go ahead
in
on,
the mornings
Scott.
when I have a new customer, somebody I haven't fished before, I take them out there and I say, "Hey, I see some swirls over on that shoreline. Try to get it on that shoreline." I may or may not. I probably saw a mullet, but there's something over there, and there's a chance there's a redfish there. I just want to see how they cast. I want to see if they're accurate or not, and how far they can cast. And I'll be pretty good ways off the bank and ask them to cast.
Like how far?
Well,
20 yards, 30 yards,
but then pick a mullet. Pick a mullet before. It's like sighting in your rifle.
You're acting like they cast the same when
that's what I'm saying. There's no answer to that because everybody has different level of skills,
adrenaline,
and distance, and whacked out craziness that takes place.
I just like to know what I'm working with in the very beginning of the day.
And I have done that.
So when they screw up that first cast, then you they screwed up. They're not. It's not that they're not capable, and so it's a free roll to give them hell about it. I see where you're going. Okay, now I'm thinking. Now I understand.
To prepare yourself for that moment, pick a mullet, pick a swirl, pick a target, and practice. on that, you know, kind of gauge your range of what you're working with. And then you have an idea of what your distance is going to be that you can expect success or otherwise.
See, after 12 years or so of going through this and engaging my customers and reactions and everything, I would, yeah, sure, you can cast 30 yards to the bank, great, cool. I would compare making a cast on the first school of redfish in the morning, especially if they're new to it, it's the first time they've ever done anything like this, to shoot this free throw in a car.
Yeah.
Like,
it's adrenaline, it's nerves, it's
and
overthinking it.
And it's completely what do you call it? Understandable. I mean, it's hell, I don't remember my first school anymore, but I'll bet you I did something similar.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we're seeing, at least Dean saw some, and I, you know, you guys have seen some too, Caleb. We're seeing schools. We're seeing tailing redfish. You know, it's been a little rare now. Clearly, weekdays or more, you know, more often. But this is a good sign, man. I mean,
well, and right now, the end of May, before school's out, there's just there's light traffic on the water right now. There's a period before the vacation season hits and before the summertime season where it's just the flats are undisturbed right now.
Every once in a while in fishing, a reel comes along that changes the game. That reel is here, and if you're not using one, your friends are, and they're probably catching more fish. For sure, they're fishing with more confidence and comfort. Bates reels are the fishing industry's original CNC milled, one-piece aluminum, low-profile frame, built to last, it's built to fish. All Bates reels saltwater ready and good to go. You know I've got them on my boat. You should too. All reels, 3-year no BS warranty, and they mean that. And a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're dissatisfied, you will not be. I say it all the time. It is true. No bull, just baits.
And you're going to have more shots at those without them getting run over. Once those schools are broke up, you know, in the morning is your best chance to see them. Once they get broke up, boat traffic is running all over the place. You're not going to see those later in the day, peak of boat traffic season. So, I mean, I tend to find more late May and early June.
Where the hell is this undisturbed flat you speak of?
Yeah, no kidding.
I do find that my fish up here, at least, I'm on the clock from 7:30 in the morning to about 10:30. The schools aren't what they used to be. It's not anywhere close to as good and as strong as it used to be. But back then when it was really strong, and now when it's not as, I expect about 10 o'clock, 10:30 is starting to slow down and shut down. I don't know if it's the sun getting up and getting on them, or, you know, it's just they're done with their morning feeding. But that's definitely a pattern that I see up here. Dean, do they run a little bit longer down there where you're at?
No, it's and I can tell you stories about what the schools used to be like.
What about late evenings? Do they act? Because I'm very rarely fishing on a late evening. And late evening, do they act like they do in the morning?
I don't know, man. I'm usually having dinner, like my feet up in the air.
I don't think many guys know what they're doing right before dark.
There's a rhythm to that day. I mean, so right now we're past the full moon. The major is much later in the afternoon, and you know, you would expect, if you have a flat that's undisturbed by some miracle, then it makes it all day without getting run over. That I mean, yeah, they can.
Bush is in the comments. He's one of them hardcore daylight to darkers. He might be able to tell us what the redfish are doing right before dark.
Hey, help us out. Do us.
I would imagine my guess would be, as long as it hasn't been like a July, August hot day, that this time of year, they're probably doing the same thing. You know, as the sun's going down.
Yeah, my ass is tailing on the couch in the evening.
Yeah. Yesterday, I spent 8 hours on the tower yesterday calling fish. I couldn't even consider going back out in the evening time. I mean, I'm pretty smoked by then. But so yesterday the tide came in all day, which was the only unoptimal thing of the day. And there are some big schools in the bay that I was thinking about messing with. And I've drove by and checked a couple times and never saw them up and do anything. And I think it had a big thing to do with that tide coming in because they tend to do better on the outgoing tide. And so
Yeah.
the tide yesterday about 12:45 is when it started pulling out. And so it would be, I would venture to say that right before dark, they were probably doing their thing because the tide's doing, bringing the
Yeah.
fish out of the marsh or out of the grass and out of the, off the shorelines and stuff. So I mean, hell, if somebody figures it out, let us know.
Chef Gonzo on the YouTube stream said he's been killing it better in the evening than the morning. I always love fishing in the evening, but I haven't done a lot of it.
But is he talking about fishing, or is he talking about actual schooling carp fish?
Yeah, well, we'll find out. We'll find out. He also said this, Dean. And by the way, go ahead, Scott. You got something?
One last thing here.
Yeah.
When you're finding these schooling tails of redfish, if they got pointy little tails sticking up, that ain't redfish.
Yeah,
that's if they're wiggling really fast and they're a little pointy and they're kind of silverish, that's a whole school of mullet. Dean and I paddled up on one of our mutual customers one time. Remember Trey?
Oh yeah,
paddling down Sailboat Channel, and Trey is over there and he is concentrating so damn hard, and he's throwing his fly in there and just over and over and over. And we just kind of paddled up and we're watching. He's throwing a whole bunch of mullet. He's got hemmed up in this corner. And he was so concentrated on it, he didn't see us coming. And Dean just paddles up right behind him real nice and slow and goes, them's mullet, right?
As only
and after that, while we're sitting there talking to him, that's what he tells us. He's like, I've been surrounded by tails all day long. And I'm like, amazing. How many did you catch? None. And I was like, well, you might not have been throwing at those. And then there's tailing black drum as well.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm laughing.
But you also
last year about this time, I made about 5 casts into cow nose rays before I realized they weren't.
Well, and rays actually look more like redfish tails than black drum and mullet.
That's my story anyway.
They also look like a redfish with their back out of the water from a long distance.
Yeah.
Dean and I chased one across Tampa Bay one time.
Except the fact that they're moving like 10 times faster than a tailing redfish. But still, they get your juices flowing.
They had mine going. I was like, I am on it, baby. And I took through about 5 right around everything you guys have been talking about. And I'm like, oh, I see one now. Oh, okay. Time to move on. But hey, nobody. Go ahead, Caleb.
John, I don't know what the hell the settings are that you have on this chat. All right. But Chef Gonzo said schooling redfish. Here's my response. Send a pin, please. If there is somewhere I can get out of bed at noon and go chase schools, I'm in. This comment has failed to post to bite me fishing.
But you're posting other comments?
Apparently that one's against the rules, John.
It's you. That's a you problem. That's a you problem.
It was too aggressive. Put a pin in.
Yeah, exactly.
Tone it down, brother.
Yeah. So you guys know that nobody. This has been a fun deep dive. Nobody loves a good deep dive into a single topic more than I do. I think it's really helpful for a lot of people. But we are going to move on to something else before we get to what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, and what would Dean do? Because Caleb, I'll start with you because I named this topic just the tip. And what we're talking about.
I had one of those series on YouTube and it didn't go well with monetization.
We had a lot of people talking today on the group page, which I hope everybody joins on Facebook, about the tips of their rods, snapping off and forgetting to put them up and all this other stuff. I got to hear your story, man.
This was not on the rundown.
No, it wasn't on the rundown. I just added it.
I'm over here scanning the rundown going.
I should say on my rundown. On my rundown, I added this one this afternoon after I was looking at the group page. I was like, I hear their stories. Who doesn't like a good story?
The moral of the story is you don't leave your little trout rod sitting in the rod holder beside me whenever a 10-pound fish might swim past me, because I'm gonna use it.
Did you snap it on the cast?
No, it was my fault. Mm-hmm. This is an absolute tank of a redfish that was probably about 5 foot off the side of my boat, and I grabbed Austin's rod and flipped down there in front of him. And I use very stiff rods. Mm-hmm. Like my stuff is made for what I'm about to explain. when that fish sucked it in, and granted, I'm kind of flexing on the customers a little bit because I think I'd casted 3 times that day, and all 3 of them I'd got to eat right away, and this was a good one, man. That's a good one. He's big, but that's a good fish. And he sucked that thing in, and my process is I thumb the spool and just lay into him. It's kind of a funny running joke when you fish with me. If it's under 6 pounds, it comes out of the water when I set the hook. Yeah. That's literally how we know whether it's got weight to it. If it stays in the water, it's a good one.
Yeah, that's tournament stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just me.
That's a Caleb thing.
So anyway, this and it was every bit of a 10-pound fish, and he sucked it in, and I reeled down and thumbed the spool and gave it to him. And when that rod blew up, I punched myself directly in the nose. That's how much force I had coming back. And yeah, so rod wasn't designed to do that. And you gotta think about this too. I probably only had 15 feet of line between the reel and the fish. So there was no give whatsoever until the rod broke. There's a lot of give after that. And so I'm proceeding to try to reel him up with just the reel. And I get him, I'm about to boat flip this sucker, and the broken part of the rod slides down, and it's all frayed up, and it ended up cutting the line. And Austin said that was a new rod. And so that sucked. I texted the dude that built it, and I was like, my bad, bro. And about 10 minutes later, I get a text back. He said, you ever pulled teeth? That's what this conversation is like. I said, well, somebody's going to come in with a crazy story that I broke their rod, and I know it's not believable, but it actually happened.
So Caleb left all of his rods in his truck.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't hear that. I didn't know that part.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't fish. I don't fish that much whenever I got customers. If they miss a fish and I flip in front of it, they're damn sure not going to catch it. I'm either going to catch it or blow it up. And so I was so excited yesterday. I was excited. The flags, I couldn't hear the flags whenever I pulled over the levee into the harbor. That's new.
Yeah,
and
very new.
I just ready to go, and we got all the way to the fishing spot, and Austin, and I was like, damn, I left all my rods. And Austin's like, I was going to ask. I was like, well, I don't fish anyway. And so Austin set his beside me. He's like, well, if you want to, you can use mine.
All right. Famous last words.
I would really like to have seen his face when that rod blew up, because when you blow a rod up like that, I've done it. And most of us at tournament fish at some point have blown a rod up like that. It's loud. It's
I
shocking.
couldn't hear it because my ears were ringing from punching myself in the nose. The knuckle of my left hand hit me directly in the end of the nose. And what sucks is I got these sunglasses that record everything, and I'd already recorded so much that morning that whenever I was about to flip on it, I reached up there and hit the button record, and it said battery low, can't record.
Oh, no.
I would have it all on film. Yeah. Rod manufacturer doesn't mind that I didn't get it, but there's places rods break where you can tell if it's blank failure, and there's places they break where you can tell if you were just an asshole about it. And I was the second one.
I mean, I have witnessed this in Louisiana when I had Caleb come over and fish with me over there, and he wasn't used to these 20-25 pound redfish.
No, that's not exactly. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do.
Let the man talk.
Either you and the other dude, or just the other.
Sounds like it has everything to do with it.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. They had missed like 6 fish in a row, and so whenever I got to eat, I damn sure wasn't going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And I gave it to that sucker. I would have. I mean, I know all about them Louisiana redfish. Now I'd do it again. I'd not even question it.
Okay, Scott, now tell us the truth.
He hadn't been fishing in Louisiana.
I hadn't, but I wouldn't have done any. I wouldn't do any different today.
And I'm on these gigantic redfish over. That's what I go there for, in the wintertime. And these are easy 15 pounds, most of them 20-25 pounds. And they're cruising in shallow water, and they eat really good. And you don't have to set the hook all that hard, because usually they turn as soon as they eat it. And they pretty much set the hook themselves if you just hold the rod. And Caleb Bill danced the hell out of that son of a bitch. And all I heard was pop, 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 pop. And That rod exploded in 3 different places. I've never seen anybody break a rod in 3 separate places on one hook set.
It sounded like a semi-automatic 22 long rifle.
And then he's standing there with a reel and a handle. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much all he had.
Landed that sucker, didn't we?
That
You
was
did?
landed.
Hell yeah,
I'll
we
be damned.
landed. The
I'll be
better,
damned.
my favorite story from that day, other than the duck kicking the fish between the eyes, which we've told before. I'm on the front of the boat, and I got this little underhand flip I'm pretty proud of. Yeah,
Mhm.
if I can figure out how to underhand flip on the ground at the accuracy contest, these boys.
Oh,
got
I've seen
problems.
it. I've
But
seen it.
But I got this underhand flip thing, and I flipped it probably about, I don't know, 30 yards and just like a quarter inch off the grass line. Just
Mhm.
and
Caleb's going to bring a step stool.
I might a bucket, 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
And I'm working it back, and I turn around to look at Scott like, you see that shit? And I'm looking at him, and I'm probably talking trash. And when I turn back around, the lure is about 3 feet off the front of the boat, and I'm just looking at it, and then from the depths comes this megalodon of a redfish and opens his mouth, and all I can see is a spray of water in that little butthole in the back of their throat, and it scared the living crap out of me. I mean, I come off the step. It startled the heck out of me because it was silent. It was right there.
Okay, so we're gonna get to what Scott do, Dean and Caleb, but this weekend, I'm gonna be down. One of the things that might blow up those schooling reds is Babes on the Bay is down in Aransas Pass, Rockport area. Dean and I are going to be out there at the weigh-in. It's a big party, hundreds, if not more, people. So you're going to have the shootout there. I'm going to have some OG sauce there by request, so that's going to be cool.
Yes, we're going to have the booth set up. We will be a vendor at Babes on the Bay with the shootouts available to purchase and OG sauce.
Yeah, so come on by if you're in the area. And
John will be autographing bottles of OG sauce.
Sure, if you want to. If you want me to.
Ladies, John looks like a creepy old dude, but he's really
he
contains it well.
You would never know it.
It wouldn't actually rub off on you.
It's like an unloaded gun.
You would never know it. And so we got that going for us. Don't forget about the Candlewood Suites. I'm going to get the link from Carrie as soon as we're done here. Put it on the group page. Big announcement next week. Big a part of the podcast. We're going to be releasing that tagged redfish live on here. Nowhere else does it except us. Live tagged redfish release.
Never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like it. I see what you did there.
True,
so let's get
extraordinary. They said it couldn't be done.
People say it's the best thing ever. So let's get to what would Scott do, Dean and Caleb. Dean, I'm gonna start with you. You mentioned the full moon. I got a hunch that might have something to do with what people might want to do this weekend.
Man, I don't know if everybody else is as superstitious about it as I am, but the week after the full moon is just it beats me down, man. But I'm off for the next couple of days. I'm not fishing until Friday. So, and it's crazy when the next couple of days. Actually, Friday looks like a decent window, less than 20, which I consider that a window nowadays.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And then we'll be at the Babes on the Bay Saturday. And then Sunday, Monday, we're back in the groove again, week before the new moon. So, I mean, it's all about the rhythm of what goes on out there in Mother Nature. And it's just, I don't know, it just, for my style and where my fish, they tend to get funny after the full moon.
Anything to add there, Caleb or Dean? Or Scott?
Me and Scott are just trying to find this less than 20 thing he's talking about.
I ain't seen it.
No.
Friday is.
If you subtract the two numbers, you get a little bit over 10.
Dean's looking at the ranch again.
No, I got in Port Aransas. Friday is 15, 16 mile an hour wind.
And I was checking other stations, and Baffin is 20 to 30.
And Saturday is about the same.
Sunday,
Monday
day for us.
Sunday, Monday. And if you believe in voodoo magic, you can look as far ahead as Wednesday of next week.
Next Wednesday and Thursday look legitimate.
Mhm.
Yeah,
For right now.
for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just glanced at it, just thinking, I might try to slip out there tomorrow morning. 26 gusting to 41. Nah,
Yeah, you should do it. You should do it.
I'm probably not.
Man,
I'm thinking-
Scott, I found this
thinking that's
island. You go crazy, man. They got this rookery out here that's just loaded with spoonbills and herons and the nests and all the baby birds. The little fluff balls are on the nest. I have been wanting to go out there and do my best imitation of Scott Noel and photograph these birds, but I ain't going out there in 30-mile-an-hour wind. Take a picture of a damn bird. But it's cool, man. There's 2 islands that I have found that are just loaded with nests of white egrets, spoonbills, and blue herons all nesting together.
Well,
It's
you know,
really
Jan's
cool
gonna
when
want to
you-
see that.
when
Yeah.
you can
Even the
slide in one like that.
the white herons will sit over them and they spread their wings and it's amazing. They have those little pencil type looking feathers that fan out, and it's covered with them. And because they're sitting on their nest, they don't spook from the boat. They don't fly away. So I mean, we've been getting up close and personal and seeing them. And I was wishing I had my camera with me the other day, and I have had intentions of going back, but I've been less than inspired.
Yeah. All right,
When we
go ahead.
hung up last week, I went, I was all camoed out. I went straight to the blind and had a bobcat come strolling right in and get a drink. It was cool as hell.
Oh, hell yeah.
You're getting those things domesticated out there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, all right, boys. Great job today, as always. And we're gonna be out down there this weekend, and I know you guys are gonna want to get on the books here with Dean and Scott and Caleb as soon as you can. It will eventually get better, I promise you. It always does. But have a great week. Have a great weekend. You guys catch them up. We'll talk to you next time.
I got to know how Dean finds undisturbed flats and less than 20-mile-an-hour winds.